So you got a pet, huh? Dog, cat, fish, whatever, and you want to take it. You want to take it on the truck, or maybe you don't want to take it on the truck, but you have to take it on the truck because you got to make arrangements to leave it at home or whatever the issue is, and maybe you can't. Maybe you can't leave it at home. So your only other option is to take it with you. All right. So let's talk about pets on board. All right. Next on the trucker's journey, right after this. YouTube Nation, welcome back. It's Mad Dog coming at you one more time. Appreciate you stopping by or hanging in here with me, going on this journey with me. And before we do anything else, let's make sure we like, subscribe, and ring that bell for new content. All right. So you got a best friend at home, and I'm talking about your dog or your cat, and you want to bring them on board. All right. First of all, it's a big responsibility having a pet on board a truck going across the country. All right. It's not impossible. People do it, and there's nothing wrong with it. But there are a lot of things that you have to consider when you're taking a pet on board, and also you want to make sure that you are highly organized and responsible if you're going to take one on board. Now, yeah, you can bring a dog on board. There's nothing wrong with that. They're good companions. That's why they call it man's best friend. And sometimes when you sleep, they hear things that you don't hear. They see things that you don't see. They're always there to protect you. So that's one thing to think about when you're on the road, and that's why a lot of people have pets on the road, not just for companionship, but for protection also. All right. So the first thing to think about or to consider if you're going to take a pet on board, well, wait a minute. Before we even talk about that, let me say this. Personally, I wouldn't recommend any new driver. That means no new driver. I'm talking about under 90 days, maybe 60. I would not suggest you get an animal on the truck until you've completed a good 60, 90 days running loads. I mean, really running, not just going, small place, but getting a lot of driving experience in. And 90 days isn't a lot of experience, but it gives you a chance to really feel what the truck is like, feel what it's like being on the road, and to manage yourself and to be organized. Because the last thing you want to do is to be unorganized while you're on the truck. And then when you get on the truck, not only are you unorganized with your paperwork and with everything that you have going on, but now you got an animal that's moving around and about on the truck. Messing your papers up, sliding papers here, getting things mixed up. So make sure you're organized, all right? Make sure you have the time under your belt, 60, 90 days, just to get comfortable with everything, things that the road presents. Also, make sure that, like I said, you consider the size of it, but is your animal trained? All right. The last thing you want is a dog on the truck that's not trained, and then you have a big dog on the truck that's not trained. What if you're going through the scale house, through the weigh station? And that's where, for those that don't know, the weigh station is where the trucks pull off to the side of the road, then they drive real slow, maybe 10 miles an hour, maybe less, maybe a little more, and they go across the scales where the DOT officers are, and they're weighing your truck. You go across the scale and you stop on the scale. They look at your the weight of your axles on the truck. Now, this is one of a driver's least favorite places to be, is in front of DOT. Because it only takes the click of anything to be shut down. All right, you don't want that. So if you're going across the scale at the weigh station and you got a dog that's all over the place and he's all in the driver's seat and all that, you better believe you're going to get pulled to the side. And if you get pulled to the side, they're going to ask you to come inside. You got to bring your log, your bills. They got to go through your logs and all this stuff, and it's not going to be a fun thing. All right, so. Yeah, make sure your animal is trained. Make sure he knows or she knows to sit down when they're supposed to sit down, lay down when they're supposed to lay down. Make sure they're not jumping all over the place, and they're manable dogs. Also, while I'm doing this video, if I'm moving and shaking a lot, it's because I'm at Target in Iowa, and they're getting my truck unloaded. So every time they get in, like right now, every time they go inside the trailer with the forklift, they push the pallets up against each other and against the truck, and it makes it shake and move. So it's no earthquake, and I'm not having tremors or anything. They're just working on the truck while I'm doing this video. Oh, I thought that was dust. Cause see, it'll be dust right there. Y'all won't even say anything. Okay, so we talked about the size of it. Now, there's a financial responsibility that comes with having a dog on board. All right, that means there might be some days where you might not eat the way you want to eat. You might want to eat 3 times a day. You might want to eat on and off, all day, or you might want to stop here and do this, do that. But when you have a pet, some places won't allow you to take your pet inside to eat with you. Now, personally, I don't think anybody should take their animals inside a restaurant and eat where other people are eating. Now, that's just my personal opinion. I'm old school. I love dogs. I have 2 at home, but I would not bring my pet to a place where people dine. All right, people have allergies. Dogs shake and sneeze and do all kind of stuff, and it's just not some place I want to eat when a dog is, in the restaurant around the table. So, but that's just my personal opinion. So when I say financial responsibility, make sure that while you're on the road, it's going to be tough enough for you to have money to feed yourself and to make sure that you get, the things that you need: water, food, toiletries, and all that kind of stuff. But you also have to make sure that you have dog food. You have something to put the dog food in. You make sure that you have medicine if your dog takes medicine, and your dog's got to have water. So you have to make sure that you will be able to financially support your dog while you're on the truck. It's not like you're at home. All right, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more responsibility that you have to take. The other thing is, a lot of times when you're driving, you're going to be you'll be going through deserts, like in Arizona, Nevada, different places. If you ever have to stop off and your dog has to get out because they got to pee or they got to do their thing, you got to be careful with the desert. If you have to stop in the desert, this is like last resort. If you absolutely have to stop in a desert, 2 things you want to do. Well, a lot of things you want to do, but 2 main things you want to do is, 1, try to stop in a place where it's an open area, where you don't have a lot of shrubs and trees and bushes and like brushes, that type thing, because there are scorpions and snakes that hide up under those things or and around those things. The last thing you want is for your dog to go out there and get bit or stung by something. So, and it might not always be easy to find just an open space, but if you ride long enough, you can find a good open space where the brushes and the little trees and bushes and stuff, it's kind of spread out enough where you can kind of scope the area and make sure it's safe for your animal. All right. If you take your animal out, also in the desert, make sure that you watch how they walk when they come back to the truck. Now, you take it for what you want. You can say it's nonsense or it doesn't make sense. I'm speaking from experience. In the desert, they have a lot of those little sticky things, and it attaches to the dog's feet. And if you're not watching the dog, if you're just walking ahead of the dog or just let the dog run back to the truck, you're looking all about and not watching it to see if the dog is limping or if he's whining or whimpering or whatever, you might miss something important. And when I say important, it could be one of those little round stick things stuck to the bottom of his feet. Okay, so you want to kind of check your dog out, make sure everything is good. If it's a big dog, I'm sure he's going to walk back himself. But if it's a smaller dog, you might even want to pick him up and walk the dog back to the truck. All right, just kind of brush your dog off a little bit. You don't know what the dog might have picked up while it was outside and run around trying to do his thing. So just make sure you take a look at that. Before you do any of these things, when you're thinking about taking a pet on board, make sure you ride because a lot of people have dogs at home and they stay at home in the yard or in the house. They're house dogs or they're yard dogs, but they hardly ever go any place in the car or in the truck. So before you put them in when I say truck, I mean like pickup truck or a small utility truck or something you have at home, like your personal vehicle. But before you put your animal in the big truck, take them for a 30 minute, maybe hour ride in your personal car. All right, see if they get car sick. If they get car sick, the truck is definitely not going to work. The truck is a lot more bumpier than your personal car or truck, and you're going to have issues. Now, there is medication that your dog can take to help with the motion sickness, but you're talking about being on the road for weeks at a time. You're not talking about just a 5-6 hour trip going to your grandparents' house or your mother's house or something. So that's another thing to consider, because you don't want your dog on medication that they don't have to be on. And if you do put them on medication like motion sickness type medication so they can travel the country with you, well, you just add another bill to your expenses, because now you got to supply your dog with enough medication until that medication runs out. It could be 3 weeks, 2 weeks, it could be a month, it could be 2 months. So these are things that people don't think about that you have to think about, because everybody wants a pet on the truck. I wouldn't mind having one on the truck too. But you got to think about everything, because your dog depends on you. And if you can't provide for your dog or make it miserable for your dog, you could potentially make your dog sick. And depending on what the ailment is, it could be fatal. You just don't know. So make sure your dog has shots and immunization. Everything's up to par. You're not going to be home. You're not going to be able to take your dog to the vet to get checked out or get a shot or get whatever. You can get a vet while you're on the road, but that means now you got to find a way to find some place to put the truck, because you're probably not going to be able to take it to the vet with you. And if you go to a truck stop, well, now you got to get an Uber to get to the vet to get your dog checked out. Oh, and by the way, you got to get another Uber to get back to the truck. See, these are things you got to think about. All right, so make sure you have everything in order for your pet when you take that journey, if you decide to get one. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but just plan ahead for it. Be comfortable with the truck before you do it, and make sure whatever you do, it's okay to make a beeline for the state line, but be safe about it. Be smart about it, and you and your companion enjoy the ride. Thanks. Like, subscribe, leave me comments, and I'll see you on the next go round. This is A Trucker's Journey. Mad Dog coming at you one more time.